Yehudi Menuhin and my mom. When I called my mother weeks before I was to play with Yehudi Menuhin in Carnegie Hall, right away she became very excited. She had to be there. Her sudden enthusiasm was very uncharacteristic for her at that point in her life. My mother bought a plane ticket and when the time came, flew to New York City from California. She was at this time of her life deeply depressed, living as a hermit, alone in the house of my father. My mother had come back to life, knowing her son would be performing with the great Yehudi Menuhin. Knowing that she was going to be at the performance, I told Menuhin about my mother, that she had studied the violin and was disappointed in her life as a housewife instead of a violinist. I told Menuhin that she loved music more than anything and that she idolized him. Menuhin told me to make sure to introduce her to him after the concert. I was so proud to walk out onto one of the most famous and historic stages in the world with Yehudi Menuhin and Gyorgy Sandor. The walk to the center stage at Carnegie Hall is long, and I couldn't help looking out at those 5 different levels of seats filled everywhere, all the way to the very ornate ceilings, so very high to the top. Fortunately, I kept my composure and went back to watch where I was going. We bowed, sat down, and just thought about the music. Again, this is where my positive visualization helped me. I had every confidence because I had done the preparation. I had nothing to fear, and I loved this piece more than ever because I was about to play it with Yehudi Menuhin and Gyorgy Sandor. I learned in solo or chamber music to think of the music as my script in a movie or play. There are conversations and many mood changes, and it's always important to listen to one another. Even if one is center stage in Carnegie Hall playing with Yehudi Menuhin and Gyorgy Sandor, the music is the thing. Like in a trance, and at the same time completely focused on one another and the demands of the music, we played this 20-minute piece and it seemed to just fly by. Judging by the stamping of feet and yelps from the usually rather staid audience in Carnegie Hall, the people loved it. Lord Menuhin, as he is referred to today, was very animated after we finished. Backstage, he grabbed my hand and it felt like he was about to pull it off my arm. Looking straight into my eyes, he told me how wonderfully musical and inspired my playing was, and how much fun he had playing with me, and how he hoped we could play together again in the near future. It was quite a thrill. The Guarneri Quartet, Isaac Stern, and of course Menuhin, Sandor, and I performed that night at this tribute to Joseph Szigeti. After the concert, I brought my mom backstage, and there were hundreds of people, some milling around, but most standing in line, waiting to have a few seconds with Menuhin. Holding her hand, I brought her up to the front of the line, and as politely as I could, waited for a break in his conversations with adoring fans. Menuhin looked at me and smiled very warmly as I introduced him to my mom. Many admirers from the audience were vying for his attention, but he only had eyes for my mother. He actually took her into a quiet room and closed the door, and I noticed they sat down together. He spent quite a while talking with her. When they came out of the room together, my mother was absolutely beaming. My mother and Menuhin said a very warm goodbye. She told me later that speaking with Yehudi Menuhin in Carnegie Hall that evening was one of the highlights of her life.